Hey guys, Kendra for Legend tomorrow, Season 1, Episode 3, Blood Ties, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode. I've really been enjoying the show, and this was another great episode. I really love this episode, and something about this episode is that it really was a character-driven episode. While there was something about, taking down Savage, I think the best moments in this episode really were just character revelations, and I really love that. And I think the show's doing a very good job with who they're pairing, the scenes, the who they're pairing together, who the team gets to meet, things like that. I'm just loving that. But let's just get into this episode because I really did enjoy it. If I did have to have one complaint in this episode is that Kendra really had nothing to do here. The whole episode, she's just complaining about Carter. She wants to do something about him. And if that's where we're headed with her character, I'm honestly kind of disappointed. Not that I don't like her character. I really do love Kendra's character, but if her whole character is just going to be her moping about Carter, I understand that she's realized that she's in love with him and she remembers that they're supposed to be together. But if that's going to be her whole character, I'm not going to be happy because I really like the actress. I think she deserves way better than that, and I definitely would like to see her do more than just complain about Carter. I hope there's more to that, though. So I love the way this episode starts because we see a robbed assassin attacks Savage in his chamber. He fails and pulls back his hood, and Rip says that he's there to kill him. So right away we realize that this is not the first time that Rip has gone after Savage. He's gone after him before, and I just thought that made things so much more interesting with Rip. And I know there are people that aren't liking Rip's character. I really am liking his character, though. I think he's really good. So back in 1975, where Wave Rider lands and Gideon reports that it is Savage's current location. She summons Rip to the med bay, and Stein accompanies him there. Kendra is going into convulsions and calling for Carter, and Ray comes in as the med bay sedates Kendra, and Stein figures that she's getting worse, that she's not actually getting better. And after doing a medical analysis, Rip tells the team that pieces of the dagger broke off in Kendra's bloodstream and are heading to her heart. And he points that the future technology on Wave Rider can't save Kendra, so jumping into the future to get more equipment won't help, and she wouldn't survive the time jump anyway. So basically, they have to stay in 1975 because it's not safe for her. So Rip insists that their mission is still simple. They need to stop Savage in the past to prevent him conquering Earth in the future, and he assures the team that he's seen darker days and accompany his mission no matter what. And Gideon reports that the jump ship aboard Wave Rider was damaged during Chrono's attack, and Rip figures that Jax can repair it since he's a mechanic, and Jax points out that he's an auto mechanic, but agrees to do what he can. So I thought they gave a good reason as to why Jax can't be on this mission, because as we know, Jax couldn't be in the first episode, he was there in the second one, and here he needs to repair the ship. It definitely makes sense. So, and I definitely like Jax more in this episode. I didn't think he was annoying. I thought Jax was kind of annoying in the first episode. I don't love the actor, I gotta say that. I do still think he's not the greatest actor, but they gave him good stuff to do here. They're using him pretty well. I think they're realizing that you can't give Jax all these big scenes because I don't really think the actor's that great. I really don't. This is an actor that I do think can get better, but it's clear that it's an actor that's just starting out. He's very unknown, and I think he definitely is going to get better. He's certainly better than the actor that plays Wally West on The Flash, and I definitely think he is going to get better. It's just right now, his scenes are kind of flat. I'm going to say that. So in his quarters, Rip looks at a photo of his wife Miranda and son Jonas. Sara slips in, sees the photo, and Rip says that he wants to be alone. Ignoring his request, Sara figures that Rip doesn't actually have a plan, and he's just trying to convince himself with his speech. And let me just say, the pairing Sara and Rip together was a very unexpected pair, but I honestly really like these two together. I could honestly see these two getting together at some point, like legitimately getting together. I could see that happening. And she suggests that since they can't kill Savage, they slow him down and points out that Savage was selling the nuke for money. So Rip realizes that taking Savage's money would set his plans back by decades, and Sara asks where Savage keeps his money in 1975, which is obviously something that Rip would know. So like I said, I really like the bonding here between Sara and Rip, but what was even better is the bonding between Stein and Ray, because as we know, we do have this conflict going on with Ray, where he was Stein's student, and Stein's not remembering, and I think we really got to see that play out very well here. I really like seeing that, because in the med bay, Stein shows Ray the scans of Kendra's bloodstream and the dagger fragments, and Ray suggests that he can shrink down, enter Kendra's circulatory system, and use his photo cannons to vaporize the fragments, and Stein wants to take the time to map out experimental plan says that if Ray had been his student, that he would have taught him the principle of scientific analysis. And Ray insists that he is going in, and Rip has Gideon review Savage's financial plans, and the AI says that the boardman theorized that Savage entrusted it in the Brumberg Group, and which is the oldest bank in the world. So Sara wants to tell the rest of the team, but Rip says that he's going alone to avoid anyone else getting hurt, and I think this made sense for Rip. You know, last week he stood back and obviously Carter was killed, and I think Rip is realizing that he needs to be on these missions. He can't just stand back and tend to Gideon. As much as Gideon needs him, I think Gideon can get by without him, so I can totally understand that, and I definitely think it was a good thing for Rip to go by himself, because obviously he was, him not going was a real detriment to the group, and I think Rip realizes that, you know what, I need to do this alone. I need to go with someone. Sara's definitely someone that he can't go with. He just needs to have her and no one else. So he points out that Carter would still be alive if he hadn't convinced him to come, and Sara agrees to go with him whether he wants her to or not, and we hear Cold and Heatwave overhear them and come in, point out that they know how to infiltrate banks, refuses, and Heatwave warns that he makes bad decisions when he's bored, and after Rip leaves, we see that basically Cold reveals that he took an electrical key from Rip. Now let me just say, this was probably Captain Cold's best episode. I mean, I've really loved what Wentworth Miller has done in the show, but I think sometimes it's come across as a little bit over the top. And with this, I really feel like they've been able to give him more of a character, and especially in this episode, I think this was probably Wentworth Miller's best performance that I've seen him give as Captain Cold, I have to say. I really felt it here. Really, I think he did an incredible job. So, in the medbay, Adam shrinks down, and then Stein injects him into Kendra's bloodstream. He finds the first fragment and destroys it, and Kendra's vitals improve. However, a piece of debris hits Adam and damages the power core on his suit, and he has no choice but to plot a course out. So, Rip and Sara then go to the Brumberg Group Bank and tell the teller that they're going to deposit gold doubloons, heirlooms worth $10 million each. So, Mr. Blake meets with them, assures Rip that they're known for their discretion, and once he takes the case with the doubloons out, Rip accesses Blake's computer, finds reference to something called the Vessel, and Sara warns the receptionist had a hidden gun, and the guns are mercenaries, so Blake has a callus consistent with being a swordsman, which means that they've made them, and Rip doesn't believe it. Blake and his security team arrive, and as Rip tries to talk his way out of it, Sara takes down one of them with a hidden throwing knife and then attacks the others. And again, Sara's just a badass here. However, as she fights Blake, Rip takes a guard with a coat rack, and Sara finally goes berserk. She takes down Blake and controls herself in time to stop killing him, and that was crazy. I mean, but of course, she's still from the Lazarus Pit. She still has those effects, and Rip warns that they didn't get anything from Blake's computer, and the way that Rip was able to stop her, I thought was very interesting. I could really see Rip helping out Sara, because it's clear that Sara is a lot more aggressive. I've said this. Sara seems a lot more aggressive. She seems a lot more different than when we saw her in Arrow, and it's definitely because of the Lazarus Pit. I've heard people say, why is Sara so different? Because the Lazarus Pit. It has nothing to do with them changing the character. It's because of the Lazarus Pit. She went into it, and there's been a lot of effects because of that. I mean, look at what's happened to Theon Arrow. You know, it's the same thing. So, after bringing Blake with them to the Wave Rider, Rip wonders what Sara was doing, and she reminds him that the Lazarus Pit brought her back and it left her with a bloodlust, and Sara warns Rip that she's a monster and walks away. And it's clear that Rip really wants to help Sara, but he can't really do that because he doesn't really know about the Lazarus Pit. He doesn't really know what it can do, and I like seeing that. It just shows that Sara is very dangerous and definitely needs to be watched. So, Jax is working on the jump ship when Cold and Heatwave come in. He's making progress in finding the instruction manual, and the criminals want Jax to fly them to Central City and help them steal a priceless jewel. But when Jax refuses, we see Cold warns that it wasn't a request, but respects his courage for refusing them. He says that Jax only has to fly them to Central City, not participate in the robbery. And when Jax warns that the jump ship has a security lockout, we see that Cold shows him the key he took from Rip earlier, and Jax agrees to see what the ship can do. So Ray's working on his suit when Stein says that he's come up with a better way to track the fragments, and when Ray refuses, Stein tells him that he has to have confidence that it will work. And that's been a big part of Ray's character, is that he needs to get that confidence, and he clearly isn't confident. He has so many people Ray has lost, and Ray says that he lost someone close to him. He refused to discuss it, and Stein tells him to fix the suit because the only chance that Kendra has. He needs to fix it because he needs to save Kendra. So Rip and Sarah interrogate Blake and demand to know where Savage's fortune is. Blake calls Rip Garib and says that the Garib is a legendary figure that attacked Savage when he first became immortal, and the Garib is their version of the devil. So that's very interesting that we found this out because, Savage is supposed to be this, like, tyrannical, kind of like Hitler, honestly. That's kind of what Savage is supposed to be. But then you look at Rip, who is kind of like the hero. To them, he's very much like the devil. So that's very interesting. And Blake tells Sara to run because he already failed to kill Savage once, and he's not gonna be successful this time. So furious, Rip slaps him, walks out. Sara goes after him. She wonders what Blake meant, and Rip finally tells her what happened. And basically, we learn what happened in the flashbacks. We see that Rip finally gets the upper hand, pins Savage to the wall, but hesitates. Guards arrive and pull him away, and Savage demands to know who he is, and he just couldn't bring himself to do it. He couldn't do it, and Savage obviously wants to know who he really is, and it's clear now we know why Savage is after him, because he obviously tried to kill him, and obviously Savage went after him. So Sara admits that the killing isn't easy for an easy man, but Rip blames himself for all of Savage's murders and tells her that refusing to avenge one wife's and son makes someone a monster. And it's very interesting than what we've seen from, like, Barry and Oliver, because those are two people that won't kill, but they have specific reasons for doing it. It's kind of just like they're, they just have morals. They have morals that they go by, they don't kill. That's just kind of something that they do. Rip's reason for killing, I think, is very interesting. He kind of just does it because he feels like he would be damaging his family. That's kind of what it seems like to me, that he doesn't want to hurt his family, so he doesn't kill. And I find that very interesting, that Rip really doesn't want to kill. I think that's definitely something that's very interesting. So Jax flies a jump ship to Central City, lands on the roof of a museum, and we see Coles and Heatwave go inside, find the emerald, and Rip and Sara interrogate Blake again. He says that the vessel is Savage's most treasured possession. He immediately tells themselves that it's at the Gray Hill building, and there's a gathering there in the celebration of it. So basically, they are going to go to a gala, and Sara figures that Blake wants them to go there and get them killed, and Blake says that the vessel is the remains of Prince Khufu, aka Carter, and Rip has Gideon set course for the Gray Hill building, tells Sara that he won't let Vandal desecrate Carter's remains. Sara suggests they take in the rest of the team, and Gideon confirms that Cold, Heatwave, and Jax are no longer aboard the ship, so obviously they can't take them. So we see that Cold and Heatwave return the jump ship, and basically Cold tells Jax to set course for another address, and Heatwave realized that it's where Cold grew up and why he wanted to steal the emerald. It's clear that he figures that Cold is going to give it to his father Lewis, so he won't go to jail trying to steal it. So that's very interesting. We know that a big part of this has been Cold wanting to redeem his father. As we know, of course, in the Flash Season 2, we know this father's a criminal, and basically Jax and Heatwave both warn that Cold could alter history, but he doesn't care. He wants to do whatever he can to help out his father. He really wants to do that. So in the med bay, Ray's looking at Kendra when Stein comes in, says that he knows what it feels like to have a crisis of confidence, and he explains that, and we finally learned something that I thought was very interesting here. He talks about how when he was teaching a gifted student in 2002, the student made him feel inferior with his intellect, and Stein says that Ray was that student, and that's why he hasn't mentioned him, because he doesn't recognize the cocksure student in Ray and wonders who he lost, because Ray used to be a lot more confident. He used to be, if you see Ray in Season 3 of Arrow, you guys remember how confident he was and how kind of egotistical he was. I mean, Ray's really changed. He's a lot more depressed. There isn't really feeling like a hero, and Stein doesn't really understand what changed him. Why is he acting this way? And basically, Ray says that he lost his fiancée, and we find out something that I don't think we've ever known. I think this is something that they've kept hidden, even on Arrow. I don't think we found this out. Ray says that he lost his fiancée, Anna Loring, 2 years ago in the Star City siege. At that time it was called Starling City, and the Mirror Crew soldiers broke her neck while Ray was forced to watch, and he built the suit so he would never be powerless to save anyone again. And that's very interesting. It's really, I think, added to Ray's character. Now we know why he built this suit, because it was a question, why was he building this suit? He panicked when the fragment hit his suit, and Stein assures him that he couldn't save Anna, but he believes that he can save Kendra, and now Ray needs to believe it as well. And after a moment, Ray says that he'll do it, and I love these scenes of Stein and Ray. It's something that we could have never gotten on Arrow or The Flash, and I love that we get that here, because these are two characters that I just think work so well together, and this is exactly what I wanted the show to be. Like I said, I think one of the best parts of the show is just seeing different characters interact. They've definitely been playing with who interacts with who, and I think they've really got these pairings down very well. I'm going to say right now, these are the pairings to stick with, honestly. Rip and Sara, stick with that, especially Ray and Stein, though. That is the one that I think is working the best for me. I love seeing these two work together. They're great, I love it, and they're awesome. So Sara and Rip take Blake to the Gray Hill building in his limo. Sara secretly forces him at knife point to talk to him past the guard, and inside Blake says that he'll need their help to find the vessel. Sara punches him unconscious, and he tosses him into the trunk, and we see that Cold enters his childhood home, sees the beer bottles scattered around the place, and in my opinion, I think this was the best scene in the episode. I really love this scene. Lewis is passed on the couch, and we see Cold's childhood self step out and says that he came down for a glass of water, and Cold says that he's Lewis's friend and tells his younger self to always look out for himself and never let anyone hurt him. He wakes up, draws a gun on Cold, and orders him to get away from his son, and obviously Cold's trying to tell Leo to go back to bed, turns to his father. He says he's doing him a favor, takes out the emerald, says that 2 days from now, that Cold will try and fail to steal the emerald and spend 5 years in prison, and he says that he'll also know that if Lewis beats up his wife and son, he'll be back, and basically Cold admits that he can't kill Lewis because his sister Lisa hasn't been born yet, and obviously he's not going to kill, because he wants Lisa to live, and he walks out, and we see Heatwave and Jax are waiting, and Cold admits that nothing changed. He couldn't do anything. He could not change this, and he says that Lewis never beat his wife and children until after he went to prison, and they leave. So there's nothing that Cold can really do. I think Cold's realizing that this is just the path for his father. His father is going to become this criminal, and it's clear, I think, one of the reasons that Cold wants to do this because he doesn't want to be this, he doesn't want to be a criminal. He is a criminal because of his father, and he clearly wants to change that. And I think he's realizing that no matter what I do, nothing's going to change. So there's really nothing he can do there. So at the Gray Hill party, Sara and Rip slip in with the other party goers, and Rip invites Sara to dance so they can survey the room. And as they dance, Rip says that Sara can overcome her bloodlust by being a better person. He moved beyond the death of his family by striving to be better. More mercenaries go by, and Sara and Rip follow them, pretending to be drunk. And I'd like he's telling her to get over this. That really is a big part of this, that she needs to kind of get over this. And he doesn't really understand how the Lazarus Pit works, but I think it's good advice overall. Sara knocks him out. They find Carter's remains in the next room, and as they prepare to move it, Savage's assistant Caleb comes in behind them, recognizes Rip. Blake leads more mercenaries in, and we see that Stein directs Adam to 3 more fragments, and he blasts them apart. The targeting system overloads, and Stein tells him that it's him, not the suit that Kendra needs. And basically, Adam targets the last fragment, blows it up, flies out. Stein says that he couldn't be more proud. Ray says that he remembered he wasn't in class until 2 years after Stein claimed, and the professor says that Ray needed a push, and he doesn't remember all of his exceptional students. However, he assures Ray that he was exceptional saving Kendra's life, and I just love seeing that. The motivation, I love it. I love those two working together. So once the mercenaries tie up Sara and Rip, Caleb says the money isn't the source of Savage's power. He and Blake take them to an inner sanctum filled with chanting people who worship Savage, and Savage is standing over Carter's body, turns to welcome Rip, and we finally get the fallout we've been waiting for between Savage and Rip. And I know some people said that this was too soon, but I feel like we've really been building to it. We couldn't have just had them missing Savage and everything. I felt like that we really need to see this. He explains that Carter's blood still has its uses. He picks up the aim and dagger, severs the carotid archery, and in the medbay, Kendra starts chanting in Egyptian, and Ray and Stein have no idea what is going on at this point. They just know that she's chanting, and they don't know why. So Savage extracts Carter's blood, drinks it, says that he can share his immortality with his faithful. He passes the chalice of Carter's blood around. Each of the worshippers drink it and absorb a bit of Savage's essence, and Kendra continues chanting, then says that Rip and Sara are in trouble. She shouts their location, getting confirms that they're there. Kendra wakes up briefly, says that they have to save them, and basically Savage asks Rip why he hates him enough to kill him. Finds Rip's watch, and that's a very good question. Why does he hate him so much? I like that Savage asked this question. He admires the photos of Rip's wife and child and promises to keep the picture close. Savage figures that he will kill them in the future and smiles in triumph. And obviously, Savage doesn't know that he kills his wife and children. And obviously, I think that was very good, kind of to see a vulnerable Savage, but at the same time, you know that he wants to kill his family. So, very interesting stuff there. Gideon patches Stein through to the jump ship, and he has Gideon upload the Grey Hill coordinates to them. And basically, Cold says that they're on the way. Savage says that Rip has no chance of defeating his power, and all of his worshippers die at his command. He boasts that he's a god, and Cold, Heatwave, and Jax break in. The two criminals open fire. Savage hides behind the altar while Jax fights his way through the crowd. We see Heatwave unties Sara. She joins in the fighting. Savage fires a blast of mystical energy from the Aemon dagger, and Sara takes Carter's body out. The others open fire on Savage while Sara fights her way past the mercenaries. Savage releases a bit of energy. Rip tells the others to go. He shoots the dagger out of Savage's hand, tackles the villain, the man, while Sara fights Blake. So Savage recovers the knife, slashes at Rips, who slams him down onto the altar and stabs him, saying that it's for Miranda and Jonas. And now we know that his wife's name is Miranda, and we know his kid's name is Jonas. And I've heard people say that we need to see his family. Yes, we do. I would definitely agree that we need to see his family. Definitely, I would say that I think it would make sense if we saw his family, especially because of the fact that seeing his family would just make us feel closer, or make us feel like we had a connection towards these people. It would make sense why they why he loved them so much, and we need to see him with them. So I hope we do get an episode where we get to see Rip's family before they died. I hope we see that, because not only would that be very cathartic and I think therapeutic for Rip, it would also make us care more about this, which I do care. It's just it feels a bit broken because we haven't really seen these characters. So Savage says he knows their names, and when he heals, he will find them and kill them, and now he has even more of a reason to go after Miranda and Jonas. So basically, Rip just gave him a reason to go after Miranda and Jonas, which is probably not the thing that Rip wanted to do, but now he has kind of a reason for him to go after them. And I think that really worked because we didn't really have a reason before. So I like that now we kind of have a reason. So meanwhile, Sara takes Blake down, stabs him repeatedly until Rip stops her. And again, she has this bloodlust going on her. So Blake looks up, his immortality letting him survive the death blows. Sara punches him, and back on Wave Rider, Rip tells Gideon to find Savage's next location. He goes to the med bay, and Kendra thanks Rip for recovering Carter's body. Rip is glad to point out that he saved her life and remembers to credit Stein for his emotional support. Kendra warns that she isn't up to taking on Savage, and Rip promises to help her get ready. And I like that Kendra doesn't think she can do this alone because she needs Carter. But honestly, I do think that Kendra can do this on her own. I think that she just needs to move on from Carter because Carter's dead. Do I think he's going to be put in the Lazarus pit at some point? Yes, I think that's going to happen. We know they're going to Star City at some point. We know they're going to meet up with the future Oliver. I could definitely see them putting Carter in the Lazarus pit. I could definitely see it happening. So back on, basically, we then see that Cold is reviewing the historical records with Gideon. The AI reports that Lewis will be arrested in 2 days after trying to steal the emerald to an undercover police officer. And I think Cold's realizing that this is the way things need to be. He can't really do anything here. And it's really sad. I think Cold knows that he can't really do anything, and that's why it's really sad. He wants to change it, but he can't. So Jax overhears Gideon, and I like that they can't change everything. There are just some things, events that you just can't change. Even though you want to change them, you set out, you want to do something, you can't always change everything, and you can't fix things like they want to. And that's why I love this show so much, because Arrow and Flash, yes, they go back in time, but not really like this. You know, they don't do it every single week where they try to change something, and obviously, he can't really change anything here, and I definitely really did like seeing that. Very, very good stuff. I definitely, really enjoyed that scene. It's very sad, but I really feel Wentworth Miller, like I said, I really think this was his strongest performance was in this episode. So Jax overhears Gideon, says that Cold at least tried, but Cold says that it doesn't matter. He can't really change anything. Sara comes in to get them, and the team goes outside and buries remains. Rip admits that Carter and Boardman's sacrifices showed him that one person can't save the world and that he needs them. And Kendra places flowers on Carter's grave. She asks him to come back to him and then thanks Stein and Ray for helping her. And once she goes, Stein tells Ray that Anna would be proud, and so is he. And back on Wave Rider, Rip orders Gideon to prepare for takeoff. He knows about the theft of the emerald and apologizes to Cold and Heatwave for hiding information from them. Now that they're back to full strength, Rip says that they must all commit to work in concert, and basically Cold says that they won't ditch him if he ditches them, and Rip agrees. Gideon reports that she has located Savage in 1986. They jump into the time stream, and they're headed to 1986. So that's how this episode ends, and overall, guys, I love this episode. There's so much to love about this show, I have to say. I mean, I love so much here. let's just talk about Savage in general. I mean, now Savage has a reason to go after Rip's family, and I would really love to see Rip's family before they get killed. I could honestly see them going back to the night that they got killed. It would just make sense, and I feel like that's where the finale is going to take us. We're not going to see his family probably till the finale because Rip is the main character of this show. Even though this is an ensemble show, let's face it, Rip really is the main character here. They still obviously they need to go to other places. 1986 though, I'm honestly interested in seeing if we do get to meet Ray's wife at some point. I think we will. We haven't heard of Anna before, so I hope we do get to see her because we know that Anna died, and I hope that we see her again because it would be really cool if we did get to see Rip with his wife. It would be good for Rip. He would obviously be really happy to see her, and it'd be really, really touching. I think I'd really like to see her. I really think that'd be interesting. Kendra needs to move on from Carter. I know it's hard for her to do, but she needs to do that. Rip and Sara, I could honestly see these two getting together. I really could, because Rip really seems like he wants to help Sara. Even though he doesn't fully understand what she's going through, he knows he wants to help her, and he thinks he knows how, and I really like seeing that. Just seeing the fact that he wants to help her, I really liked, and I hope that for their sake, things work out well for them. Cold, I really did feel bad for Cold. I think Cold really is trying to do good. You can tell. Cold wants to do good. He doesn't want to be a criminal. He has reasons for stealing these things because he wants to help his father, but I don't really think Cold can do anything, and I think it's really sad because I don't think Cold really wants to be this criminal. Heatwave, I think Heatwave always does. I think Heatwave always is going to be a criminal, but Cold, I don't really think he wants to be. I mean, he said to The Flash, am I really a criminal? And I think he's really been thinking that, and he really hasn't done anything because there's nothing he could have done. So that was definitely very interesting to see him, wonder if he wants to be a criminal or not. And I like the way they're really developing Cold's character. Again, I don't really think we ever got to really develop him in The Flash. And we did, but it's just better here because he's a main character here. We see him every week, and it's better to develop him on this than it is on The Flash. So I hope that we see more of that because that definitely is very interesting. I love the relationship that is developing between Stein and Ray. I just love it. I love the fact these two are working together. I love that we now know that Ray was Stein's student, that Ray's not crazy, that he in fact was a student of Stein's. I love seeing that. Very good stuff there. Overall, guys, a very strong episode. I really did love this episode. I've been loving this show in general. I mean, this show I don't think has had a dull episode so far. Honestly, I've really been enjoying the show. I think the acting has been top notch. The effects have been great, just where they're going every week. And they're going to the 80s next week. Such a different environment. I mean, we go from the 70s to the 80s, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens next week because, since they're headed to the 80s, we'll have to see where they go, things like that, and who are they going to meet, because that's been one of the best parts of the show is every week it seems like they meet someone that's very important to them. Are we going to meet Ray's wife? Who are we going to meet next week? I'm very interested. Is Cold going to try to help his father or something? I don't really know, but it definitely is very interesting what's going to happen there. Let's talk about Carter as well. Is Carter going to go into the Lazarus pit? Because, again, Rip doesn't fully understand it, but Sara obviously knows how they can do that, so I could see Sara definitely be like, we should just put him in the Lazarus pit. I could definitely see her doing that. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a conversation between Sara and, Kendra, talking about, can I put him in the Lazarus pit? What's it going to do? But then there's a part of me that thinks Sara doesn't want to do that because she knows that the Lazarus pit changes you, and who knows what could happen to Carter if they did put him in the Lazarus pit. They might just want to keep him dead because it's probably the best thing to do. Problem is the actor is scheduled to be in every episode. So how's that going to work? I have no idea. We'll have to see. But overall, guys, I love this episode. Definitely really great episode. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for Colony, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.